What's up, guys? Today we are taking a look at our Jeep Grand Cherokee. This is 1997 Jeep ZJ, and it's going to be putting a fuel pump into it, but not because the fuel pump is quit. Let me show you what the problem is. Okay, when we try to start it, we get this. A little bit of a crank there. Sometimes it does it a lot worse. Of course, because we're filming, it did it pretty quickly. But basically what it's doing is there's a check valve in the fuel pump that keeps the fuel from flowing back into the tank so that when you go to start it after the Jeep's been sitting for a little while, it fires right up. The check valve in this one is blown, and so the fuel is just going back. So the fuel pump works, we're getting good fuel pressure, but it's doing that before it starts. So we're going to be replacing that. So in order to fix that, we need to replace the entire fuel pump, which, considering this Jeep's got 200 and something thousand miles on it, a new fuel pump's not a bad idea. I'm sure the fuel filter on the end of it is not doing really great. So we'll take care of all three of those problems with this fuel pump. I'm Joel, this is Motors of Mischief, and this is our 1997 Jeep Grand Cherokee ZJ that we're putting a fuel pump in today. Let's get started. Before we dive right into it, got to show you real quick, got new merch. This is our Dr. Torque's Garage shirt, and you can see here on the back that it's got a super cool retro design for Dr. Torque's Garage. If you're a fan of the channel, you know Dr. Torque very well, and this is American Muscle. So we've got quite a few other shirts that you can check out, and we're about to actually come out with a hoodie, and we're working on a hat. So check out our store and support the channel by buying some merch. All right, enough of that jibber jabber. Let's really get to work now. Okay, normally you want to do this job with as little fuel in the tank as possible. However, if your fuel pump breaks, or in the case of us, if your junkyard transmission that you put in your Jeep about a year ago blows up and your Jeep doesn't move super great, then you have to work on it with whatever fuel is in there. So we've got about a half a tank. That's about 60 pounds, I think it's going to be. We're definitely using a jack, but it's going to make the job harder. There's nothing we can do about that, so we're going to work around it. So first thing we want to do is depressurize the fuel system so that when we disconnect the tank, the fuel doesn't spray all over the place. It might still spray, but we're going to try to get it to the point so that it doesn't. So first thing we want to do is pull the fuel pump relay so that the fuel pump can't run. Then we'll fire up the Jeep and run it out of gas. Okay, that fuel pump relay is supposed to be written down right here. It is this one, and there is nothing written there. So it's a good thing you're watching this video because it is this relay right here. So we will go ahead and pull that. Okay, and now we will run the Jeep, let it run out of gas. Okay, and that's all it took. So it is now out of fuel, so fuel pump's not running. So those lines should be depressurized now since there's nothing in it. We'll do one more thing. And that'll depressurize the tank for any pressure that was left in there. We'll pull it regardless, that'll just be a little bit safer. Just to be extra safe, we're also gonna go ahead and disconnect the negative battery cable to disconnect the system from the Jeep. Again, cold day, so there's not gonna be really any fuel vapors, but if it was a hot day and there were some fuel vapors and we did somehow manage to create a spark in the back while we were working, it could ignite the fuel vapors, and we don't want that. Next thing we gotta do is jack up the rear of the Jeep and get the Jeep on jack stands, get the axle on jack stands so that we can work under there. We're also going to pull the left rear wheel because we're going to have to be able to get to the inner liner to disconnect some hoses from the fuel filler neck. So let's get that done. Okay, this shield right here comes out, and it's these two little push pin things right there. So those unscrew with the Phillips, and then this will come off. Okay, we got our guard out in typical old Jeep fashion. Both of these little guys were stripped out, so they did not unscrew, so we just had to force them. And then there is, up in the upper corner right there, there's a Christmas tree, which I don't know why they just don't hold cars together with those Christmas trees, because those things will not come apart no matter what you do. We had to tear it all up to get it out of there. So luckily I bought a whole bunch of those when we bought this Jeep, so that we've got new ones to put back in there. So we will replace that, but now that's how we can pull the hoses. So there's the hoses. These go down to the fuel tank, which is right here. And you can disconnect them on this other side, but they're super hard to reach. So most guys pull them here. So we'll try pulling them here first, and then if the tank gives us too much trouble, since it's still full of fuel, we may drop it down a little bit and disconnect them at this side instead. But with these off, it'll make it a lot easier. So we'll undo both of these clamps, and then we'll use a hook tool, and we'll work our way around that. We'll pull both of those off. I'm sure there'll be a fight. They've been on there probably since this thing was new, and I bet they're vulcanized on real good. So we'll get those off of there. Okay, once those hoses are off, the next thing to come out is the heat shield, which is on the passenger side. It's this guy right here. So we're gonna take out these, and there's one more right around the corner, so we'll pull all three of those and that'll come right out. Okay, this Jeep's got an interesting mix of metric and American size sockets on it from the factory, and these particular bolts to hold this heat shield on are 10 millimeter, and you need an extension. Okay, next is this electrical connector that powers up the pump, and you gotta slide that red part back and then push down on this. You might need to stick a little screwdriver in right there to get that to come out. And then this is the Evap line, and we'll disconnect it right here by popping it out of this. These are two hard lines on either side, and there's a rubber connector right here just for this purpose. So we'll go ahead and pull that apart there. Yep, we'll go ahead and get those out. Okay, got those disconnected. And now we're ready to pull the loops that hold the actual fuel tank into place, and that's these guys right here. So we'll undo this bolt, and then that'll allow it to unhook from right there. So it's not necessary to completely take that nut all the way down. You just got to loosen enough that you can unhook the strap. So before we undo those, we're going to put a jack underneath the tank here so that it's supporting, because as soon as you disconnect those, the tank will fall out. Okay, can't forget about the fuel line. It's right here. You disconnect it by pinching in on these two ears here, and then it'll disconnect. I don't know why Jeep and Chevy have such simple disconnects, and Ford's got such a complicated, convoluted, ridiculous connection that needs a special tool, but that's what it is. So we don't want to be laying right underneath here in case this does spray fuel everywhere. So I'm gonna put the camera down, grab a bucket, and get to pulling this apart just in case. Okay, and there's the fuel line disconnected. Now this is ready to come down. Beautiful. Okay. All right, drop it completely down.
What was that?
Okay, and there it is, we're out. So now what we got to do is clean all of this nastiness off. Clear this Jeep has been off-roading in the deserty areas. But basically what we got to do is get this all cleaned up, and then we'll knock this ring off of here, and then the entire fuel pump will come out. Okay, now we're going to knock this retaining ring loose, which you just find one of these little pieces, one of these little bumps that are sticking up right there. And you just okay, now that that's rings off of there, this should just come right out. Might have to break the seal loose a little bit, but again, very careful. Okay, so a little minor problem. We got the fuel pump out just fine, but there is supposed to be a fuel filter on the bottom of that, and it's right there. So probably a good thing that we're replacing this, because that's definitely disconnected. So we're gonna fish it out with a pair of needle nose pliers, and then we'll put the new one in.
Go in.
Yep, and that filter is not supposed to look like a tea bag, so definitely a good thing we're changing it. It's just 25 years old, so all right, let's get the new one out. Okay, here's our brand new Delphi fuel pump. We have been having a terrible time with this Jeep on anything that's not original equipment or a very expensive upgrade. So we went with original equipment on this, and should be fantastic. As long as that's the right one, should be great. And that is what the fuel filter is supposed to look like. So, okay, this is all off and clean. New old one is all out, and we matched up the new one and the old one to make sure that they are the same, and they look good. Always match those up, because we've gone and put them in before when they weren't the right ones, and that makes it a lot harder. So always check it first. So now that that's good, we'll go ahead and install it. So you're gonna have to put it in at an angle so that that goes in first, and then it kind of, yeah. And that arrow lines up with that line right there. Okay, guys, it's not an easy thing to put in. And let me show you a trick, because I'm sure that this has caught a lot of people thinking that they got the wrong one. When we went to put this in, it was too tall. And I've actually seen a couple of their videos on this where they put it in, it was too tall, and they thought they'd ordered the wrong part. So the only reason we knew is because we did a fuel pump on an S10. You can check that out. But check this out. So there's tension on that, and it's spring loaded, so it adjusts up and down. So you need to put it in, get everything lined up, and then you need to carefully shove it down. It's a lot easier to put the seal on the gas tank first and then slide the pump into the seal than to leave the seal around the pump and try to slide it in. It does not want to go, so a little bit of, it's got to be a tight seal, so a little bit of silicone lube on the seal can help. Be careful not to get it into the gas, and just be careful to work it around, pry that seal up as you go in, it'll be fine. So we've got ours on, and now we just got to tighten up this ring, transfer the fuel line, and then this will be ready to go back in. Okay, that's in, and the ring's tight. We knocked it into place, pretty much the reverse of what we did to get it out, hitting these rings, or these little clip thingies sticking up, and walked it around. Now it's time to transfer the fuel line. So this comes off. This little blue piece comes off of the old one and clips into the new one, and you just snap it into place like that. And then the fuel line just slides into place and clips into those little ears. Perfect. Okay, and now it's ready for reinstall. So we will go ahead and position this tank exactly backwards of what we did to get it in. So it'll have to go in at an angle to get those hoses to go up into the frame, and we'll work it around these guys, and then we'll just maneuver it back in, a little bit of struggle, and it'll be good. Nice. Okay, those straps are tight, so now we'll put the fuel line together right here. So that just clips in like this. There we go. Okay, that goes like that. And then here is the new connector. That goes like this. Okay, now that all of those connections are done, I just need to hook these back up. I slid this one back on already. This one goes just like that. Okay, and then we'll slide these up and tighten them down. Okay, now that that's all down, let's go ahead and hook the electrical back up. Plug back in our fuse. Okay, that's down, and then our negative goes back on. And we'll tighten that up. Okay, once more, and then you can go ahead and start it. Mm-hmm. Nice, all good. All right, guys, that's it. New fuel pump installed in our 1997 Jeep ZJ. That was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was actually really cool. It wasn't that hard of a job. Went pretty smooth. And I don't know what kind of plastic Jeep uses on their stuff, but everything underneath this Jeep was in beautiful condition. The Evap line was nice and pliable. The connections for the fuel were all good. All the plastic was great. It just came all apart like it was supposed to. So good job, Jeep. That's fantastic. Hope you enjoyed this. Look around. We got tons of other videos. Check them out. Really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Peace. Oh, I dripped gasoline all over the camera. That's cool. Replacing the fuel pump with as little fuel and... Let go. Show me my socket back. What is the matter with this thing?